Hello class, we're about to start section R3.5, the vertex of a quadratic function. The standard form of a quadratic function is f of x, which we traditionally write y as well, is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, we have the vertex formula. Basically, the vertex formula goes like this. You would take negative b over 2a, get that value, that would be your x value. And then you will go back and substitute that value into the equation, and that will give you your y value. So this is basically what this vertex is saying. This is your x, this is your y. Okay, now, it says if a is greater than 0, the parabola opens up and the vertex is the minimum point. If a is less than 0, the parabola opens down and the vertex is the maximum point. Now, we saw that in R3.4. Now, let's look here at example 1. Let f of x equals negative x squared minus 6x minus 4. Okay, now, first of all here, we know f of x really means y. But we want to list our a, b, and c. It's set up just like the formula we have up here. So our a would be negative 1. Our b would be negative 6. And our c would be negative 4. Now, that will give us our A, B, and C. Does anyone have any question on how we got A, B, and C? Okay, now we want to find the vertex by hand. The vertex, this right here is the x value. So we would take x is equal to negative b over 2 times a. So now we would substitute. B is negative 6. So it would be the opposite of negative 6 all over 2 times a is negative 1. So now the opposite of negative 6 is 6. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So x is negative 3. So that is your x value of your vertex. So far we had negative 3. Now we want to find the y value. To find the y value, we just need to substitute in negative 3 for x in the given equation. So we have f of negative 3 is equal to opposite of negative 3 squared minus 6 times negative 3 minus 4. So this would be negative 3 in parentheses squared will give us positive 9. So this will end up being negative 9. Negative 6 times negative 3 is a positive 18 minus 4. Negative 9 plus 18 will give us positive 9. And 9 minus 4 is 5. So our y value would be 5. So our vertex is negative 3, 5. Are there any questions?
So to get y, you just plug it into the equation.
Right, you'll plug in your x value into the equation.
Okay.
Okay, one other thing that I want to stress too, if you notice, every place that I substituted, I put it in parentheses. Because had you not put this in parentheses, you would have ran into some problems. So remember, when you substitute, put it in parentheses. Now it says here, is the vertex a maximum or minimum point? Now we know when our A is negative, how does the graph open up? Downward, right? So since the graph opens downward, then we know that the vertex is a maximum. And then we could put because A is negative and the graph opens downward. Okay, that would be our explanation. Okay, now, are there any questions? Okay, now, we move on to the next page. Okay, the next page is basically telling you how to put this in the graphing calculator, and you are free to do that at your leisure. And if you have any questions, please feel free to come to class and ask your questions. Now we go on to page 148. It says, let F of T be the number of wildfires in the U.S. and thousands of fires at t years since 2000. Suppose the quadratic regression model f of t is equal to these values here, fits these data well. Find the vertex of the model by hand. What does it mean in terms of the situation? So what we need to do here, we need to list our A, B, and C. Now, since this is set up in standard form of the quadratic equation, we should be able to easily tell what our A is equal to. What is A? Should be 2.14. What is B? Negative 15.03. And finally C, 93.58. So these are our values for A, B, and C. Now we want to go about solving for our vertex. So I'll write the word vertex here, and then I'll write my parenthesis here. But we're going to do the work down here. So we will have x is equal to negative b over 2a. So we had an opposite of negative 15.03, and that would be divided by 2 times 2.14. So this will give us 15.03 all over 4.28. Now this will give us a final answer of 3.51. So then our x value will be 3.51. Now we want to find our y value. We substitute this value into the original equation. So we have f of 3.51 is equal to, it'll be 2.14 times 3.51 squared minus 15.03 times 3.51 plus 93.58. Now, after we put all of this in the calculator and round it to 2 decimal places, it will give us a value of approximately 67.19, and that will be your y value. So your vertex is 3.51. Let me erase this so I have more room. So this would be 3.51 and 67.19. This would be your vertex. Now, we go down here to B. It says verify your result by using a calculator. Include a sketch of the graph. Now, if you put this in your calculator, you can put the formula in your calculator and then graph it, and it would look something like this. And remember, we're approximating. And we had 3.511 because in your calculator they have it as 3.511. And then 67.19. Well, we could just drop the extra one. Just leave it at 3.51 to go along with the answer we had. So it'd be 3.51 comma 6.17. And you know that when you calculate it after using the calculator portion, you'll press number 3 for the minimum. So it says basically we want to describe what it means. It means in 2003, because remember this is since 2000, there were the least amount of wildfires at only 67.19 thousand. I'm going to abbreviate 1,000 because I ran out of space. Now that seems like a lot of wildfires to me, but I guess in comparison to other years, it's a only. Now, are there any questions on anything we've done on this page here?
Just how, in the calculator wise, how would we do the graph? Would we put it out?
You could type in y equals and then type in what you see here, but use x instead of the t's.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Any other questions? I'll just ask how would you look at it in the graph. And then once you type it in the graph, then you will press math and go to calculate and press the number 3.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and we are done.